Now, the history on today's pattern is just as interesting as the fly itself. Now, it's not a forgotten pattern. In fact, it's still pretty popular. I found it in The History of Fly Fishing in 50 Flies by Ian Whitelaw. The pattern is called Tups Indispensable. It was created in the 1890s by R.S. Austin, a tobacconist in southwest England. Now, the tail, body, and hackle on this, they're nothing special. It's pretty typical of a wingless dry fly. It's the thorax that made this fly unique. And Austin's original called for a cream and red seal's fur, when mixed together is kind of a pink, and then the fur from a lemon yellow spaniel. Now, he did give the fly to G.E.M. Skews, who helped popularize it over in England. In fact, Skews was the one who gave it the name, and he also gave it to Theodore Gordon, who helped popularize it here in the States. And apparently, Skews and Gordon had to swear a vow of secrecy not to reveal what this special material was. But Skews dies in 1911, and his daughter, who'd carried on their fly tying business, retired in 1934, and then she released Skews of this vow of secrecy. So Skews publishes an article in 1934, finally revealing what this material was. So what was it? Well, it was a hair from a ram's scrotum. And a lot of people may not know, and I didn't until recently, that a male sheep or a ram is also called a tup. That's pretty much an English term for it. Now, whatever possessed Austin to reach down under a male ram and snip off some of this fur to use for fly tying, we may never know. But luckily, it's usually tied today with some kind of fur mix substitute, either a rabbit or wool, and an orange and pink blend. And that's how I'm going to tie it for you today. So there it is in the vise, a Tups Indispensable, as originally tied as a dry fly. Of course, it's not all original materials, and we'll talk about that in a second. But I'm tying this on a size 12. It's 1 extra long barbless dry fly hook. And I'm using yellow thread. This is a 70 denier. I'll go ahead and put a base down, get it back here to where I'm going to catch in the tail, just at the start of the bend. In the tail, just some barbs from dun-colored rooster feather from dry fly cape. I got about 10 or so right here. I'm going to keep them, kind of long. And pick out some stiff ones if you can, if you're tying this as a dry fly. I think that's going to work right there. And it looks like I've got a piece of my thread hanging off. Oh well, we'll worry about that a little bit later. So go ahead and take your thread up, park it about 2/3 up, and let's catch in a single strand of yellow floss for our body. And I'm going to catch this in up front so that I can wrap it down and back, and it'll give me 2 layers. Okay, just try to keep it even. I wouldn't worry about a taper. Most of these you see in the back half of the body aren't really tapered anyway. Okay, let's catch this off. Take a look at it. That body's not perfect, a little bit lumpy, but it's close enough for government work. Let's snip that off and just secure it. Now pay attention to where your thread is, because we do have a bit of a thorax here. We might need to go back just a little bit, about right there. Now let's put some wax on. So the dubbing on this is a natural fur, pink and orange. Now I did have an orange rabbit dubbing, but I did not have pink. So I'm going to use this little pink zonker strip here. And I just mix this up with my hands. And if you don't get it perfect, don't worry about it. It might end up with a little bit of a variegated look, which I think will look pretty good on here anyway. So go ahead and put a noodle. We'll make it pretty thin, but maybe 3 inches long, and it just depends on how thick you want your thorax to be. But go ahead and wrap it up, and we'll make a thorax of about the first 1/4 of the fly here. Now, is that thick enough? Maybe, but I'm going to go just a little bit thicker. So I'm going to put another noodle on, maybe 2 inches, and then just wrap it up over that one. Okay, I think that's a little bit better right there. Now from that same cape we used for the tail feathers, just grab a feather for the front, and this time try to get it match the size of the hook. So I'm going to go with maybe a hook gap and a half, or a hook gap. So let's catch this on right in front of our thorax here. And up to you how many wraps you want, just how heavily hackled do you want it, how do you like to fish your dry flies? Do you want them way up in the top, or do you like them sitting down a little bit lower? And that would also determine, you know, how much room you leave up here to wrap your hackle. And I think I've left enough room for 4 wraps, maybe 5, we'll see here in just a second. But go ahead and wrap this up. Get you nice stiff barbs coming out, just like a standard dry fly. I think that's 4 right there. That's probably going to float this thing all right, so let's go ahead and catch it off. Okay, before I snip that, I'm just going to pull everything back, try to make a little bit of room here for my head and whip finish. Now the moment of truth, can I whip finish this without trapping any of these fibers? Sometimes I can, but quite often I cannot. All right, let's snip this excess right here, and then I certainly did trap a couple fibers going forward. So let's just snip these, and you can grab your singeing tool if you want. But as long as you can get your tippet up there through the eye after you put a drop of head cement on it, I think you got a pretty fishable fly. Got a little bit of cleanup here if you want, or not. Just leave it as is. Put a drop of head cement on it, call this thing done. So there you go, my friends, a Tups Indispensable dry fly. I appreciate you watching. Y'all take care, and we'll see you next time.